Once again, hello everyone. Let me welcome everyone to a session of Inland Software's free weekly webinars. This week we are going to be discussing the use of agile, waterfall, and hybrid product development methodologies. My name is Christoph Horvat. I work with the marketing team here at Inland, and I will be hosting today's webinar along with my colleague Eva Johnson. So let me start off by walking you through today's topics. First, we will discuss the evolution of product development, and we'll investigate how the transformation of products gave rise to new development methodologies and how these methodologies help the further development of these products. Then we will discuss the implications of these trends before moving on to analyzing all three of agile, waterfall, and hybrid methodologies. And we'll also give you practical advice on when each method should be used, and we'll also talk about the benefits of each of them. After the presentation, there will be a questions and answer session. So all your questions will be answered then. But if you have any other questions in the meantime during the presentation, please feel free to use the questions box on your GoToWebinar control panel. We will be reviewing those questions at the end of the webinar, and we'll do our best to answer them. Please also note that a recording of today's webinar will be available on our website, so you can share that with your team if you find it interesting. And also, you might want to check out our upcoming webinars. We have a few interesting topics. And remember that if you sign up for any of these, you will get a link to recording afterwards. So even if you can't make it, but you're interested in the webinar, it's a good idea to sign up. Right, moving on, we have a slide here about Inland Software with a few pieces of basic information. I'm sure most of you know all this by now, so let me keep this real short. Inland Software is based in Stuttgart, Germany, with offices, resellers, and partners all around the world. And we are the developers and the only vendors of Codebeamer ALM, which is a fully integrated and complete application lifecycle management solution that has actually been named the market leader by Ovum. And we're also providing consulting and services from Germany in order to help our clients better manage the complexity of their product development life cycles. Speaking of which, you can see a few of our clients here. As you can see, there are organizations of all sizes from various industries, and they're all satisfied users of Codebeamer ALM. Right, so now that we have the introductions done, let's move on to our main topic today. Let us start with the basics here. So in order to better understand how different software development methodologies and product development methodologies have evolved in past decades, we need to first look at how products in general have changed. So really starting out in the 1960s, you had simple hardware-only products, or later on mostly hardware products, which served a certain purpose. So think about things like cars, refrigerators, stuff like that. Then later on, you have the smart products. These have emerged with the addition of sensors, printed circuits, microcomputers, and embedded software to drive these electronic components. As these components have become cheaper to manufacture, it has become easier for product developers and manufacturers to either replace certain hardware features with software, or extend the functionality of their products using embedded software. So at this point, developers and manufacturers had to combine the development of software and hardware. Now, the next stage is the connectivity to the Internet of Things. And with the connectivity to IoT came the era of smart and connected products. These connectivity-enabled devices are actually able to connect to a central computing infrastructure, and they are able to transmit data gathered by the sensors to be processed centrally. So it is exactly this data that gives the real value of connected products. Once you know how your product actually works, how it's used in its operating environment, because you have all the data, you have a chance to optimize it. You have a chance to make it more efficient, or even to redesign the product's next generation based on the data you have collected, which is historical usage data. So it's really a good way to design your products. This stage of development represents a more closely intertwined relationship between the hardware and the software components of the product. And what's really exciting is what we are gradually moving into today is the era of product systems, or they're also called system of systems products. These products rely on IoT in a whole new way. So they are able to communicate not only with the central computing infrastructure in the cloud, but also with each other, relying on high-speed IoT connectivity. And therefore, the amount of data that is available to manufacturers is really increasing exponentially today. And this lets them add new software features or even completely new services to their products. And this is the important part here, because this transition is actually changing the way developers and manufacturers make money off their products. It enables them to open up and exploit new sources of value, new sources of revenue. And therefore, the value of hardware components is gradually losing significance. Instead, it's increasingly the attached services and the whole product system architecture with software that is really able to satisfy the needs of customers. So in this era, simply adding a new software feature could actually have a great impact on your users' perception of the value of your product. As a consequence, the role of software in engineered products is increasing exponentially. But it's also important to note that hardware and software are now integrated more than ever. So this makes product development so much more challenging because you have to bring together these intertwining hardware and software life cycles, and you have to be managed. You have to manage them in an integrated manner. Right. So how exactly does the evolution of products affect the way they are developed? It's actually pretty simple once you understand. So software is becoming more important, and it is transforming the very nature of products. And even products that seem simple at first sight are affected by this transformation. So let me just cite an example that is well overused, but it's real simple and it helps us understand. So a fridge, a simple refrigerator, 10 years ago, it was just a fridge, right? So if it kept your food cool, you were happy with it. But today, we're seeing a brand new generation of fridges emerging. So these are products that could keep track of the food that you store in them, and they could actually compile a shopping list for you based on what's missing, based on the inventory of what's inside the fridge. And not only that, but it also have this sent to your smartphone as you are driving by a grocery store on your way home. So in a few years, it might be this service that you think of when you talk about a fridge. The hardware itself, the box that kind of just keeps your food cold, that's no longer of primary importance. It's actually the added service that provides much of the value. And this added service, if you look at it, it relies on software and connectivity. So that's how these are shaping the way products are developed. Now, waterfall, or the associated V model, is actually the traditional development method used for decades in various industries. It was designed to support the building of quality hardware and software products, so it's for both worlds. Now, while it is coming from the world of manufacturing, waterfall has actually been and is still widely used in software too. So back when releasing a new piece of software meant creating thousands or millions of copies on CDs, the result of the life cycle of a waterfall life cycle would be a golden disk. And this is essentially one single disk that contained a final version of the product to be released. And this disk would then be multiplied in the thousands or even millions. Obviously, if this disk had any bugs, any mistakes, those would be replicated in those thousands or millions of copies. So quite obviously, you needed to have a surefire way of building software that simply worked. Now, that's why waterfall lifecycle have a quality assurance stage at the end of the process, so as to ensure that no bugs make it to the release. And as you will see in our upcoming slides describing waterfall, this method is actually a sequential process with each step of the lifecycle following the one before. There are no parallel processes, and work can only progress when the previous stage has been completed. Now, while this approach is really successful in eliminating errors, it doesn't really give you too much freedom. Once you have decided what to develop, you will plan the process and you will stick to it. You will just execute the plan. And there's not much room for adjustments later on. However, as smart and connected products appeared, and as the role of software has increased, it became important that the piece of software being developed perfectly suited the needs of customers. Now, in certain markets, these needs could change rapidly. So basically, over the many years that it took you to develop a product using the waterfall method, the very needs that you're developing them for could have been changed. You might have started out engineering the software equivalent of a simple fridge that keeps your food cool. But by the time you were done with years of development, you had other fridges on the market with much smarter software systems, such as the one that I just told you about. So the need to keep pace with these evolving needs gave rise to Agile, which is a more flexible and faster way of developing software. Right. But before we move on to learning more about the details of each methodology, let me just ask you one question I think is going to be really interesting. So I'd like to know what kind of software development methodology you are relying on in your development efforts. This is interesting. It seems like about half of our attendees are using the waterfall model. So this could actually be really interesting for them. Thank you for your answers. Right, so let's first look at waterfall. As mentioned before, waterfall is a somewhat rigid, sequential, and linear method of development. It places importance on quality assurance with testing and these QA activities carried out at certain stages of the process, but especially towards the end of the development lifecycle. And Waterfall offers limited flexibility in reacting to changes. So if you wanted to update the product's specifications, you basically have to start all over again. Now, that said, even with the more modern agile approach around, Waterfall is still the go-to methodology for the development of complex multi-tier hardware and software architectures. So think about airplanes, certain safety critical products, all sorts of industrial equipment. Waterfall is used there. It is a suitable methodology in development projects where requirements aren't expected to change too much over the course of development. So as you start out, you know what you will need in the few years that it's going to take you to complete the product. So the ability to react to change is not really necessary. In software, it is also commonly used for the development of back-end system architectures as opposed to front-end, where Agile is more widely used. So overall, Waterfall provides a structured and planned approach to development that works well in embedded software development with projects that are not too extended in time and where the technology is just well known. So as soon as the duration of the project is extended and as soon as changes start coming in with it, that's when you might feel that you might need a new approach. Let's take a look at the advantages and disadvantages of Waterfall. Well, the advantages are obvious. It is relatively simple, logical, and its very structure is designed to avoid mistakes. So there are no overlapping phases in a waterfall development lifecycle, and therefore these projects are generally a little bit easier to oversee. If you have fixed requirements that cannot be reasonably expected to change over the course of development, using waterfall might be the right choice. But it's not all benefits. The cons of the waterfall model mainly result from its rigid structure. So once the requirements are agreed on, everything is fixed, which doesn't allow much room for changes. And not only do requirements stay unchanged throughout the entire lifecycle, but also the risks. So risks are taken into consideration in the early planning phases and are not affected by any changes of the environment either. So as a consequence, these changing risks might cause a problem if you're using Waterfall to work on an extended project that takes a long time. Since no completed product or prototype will be produced until late in the lifecycle, you might end up detecting possible mistakes later on, which actually increases the cost of fixing them. And in extreme cases, you might have to redesign the whole product itself, which is really costly, of course. Therefore, an increasing number of product development professionals claim that Waterfall is actually not suitable for complex projects that might take years to develop. And since technology is advancing so fast and market environments are changing so rapidly, these simply don't enable the use of such an unresponsive development method. Let me hand it over to Eva to talk about Agile.
Thank you. So, hi, my name is Eva Johnson, and I'm going to talk about Agile. So as you could see on my screen, Agile was developed to provide a way to react to the changing environment and to the changing requirements faster. Essentially, it involves the use of short, iterative, incremental development stages. Between these stages, customer feedback is gathered and built into subsequent requirements. Working increments of product are released early and often in order to give users a chance to try the product and build on the feedbacks as development processes. So obviously, connectivity helps a lot in being able to release often. In order to update your software, you no longer have to have a CD shipped to your house. So instead of, now you can simply download new versions of the software online, or as it usually happens, your devices will do that automatically for you. Therefore, releasing the software is, we can say, no longer such a big deal. Some companies release incredibly often with iteration of just a few days. So besides the technical differences, Agile also means a cultural shift in how development teams should approach work. This is represented by the values of Agile Manifesto that you can see here on the left-hand side on the bottom in this table. Because of these values, some expert claims that Agile is not suitable for use in safety-critical product development, specifically the development of automotive products in compliance with the requirements of automotive space. These software professionals also say that Agile preference of functional software over documentation prohibits the use of this method if you want to keep up with relevant regulations. So these regulations require you to document everything through the life cycle. They may also require planning, which might be a difficult thing to do with Agile, and which is essentially opposite with Agile's flexible nature, prohibiting its use in safety-critical automotive development. That is also said, Agile is commonly used in the development of software-heavy architectures, non-safety-critical software products, as well as the development of front-end software and user interfaces, smartphone apps, etc. While quality assurance does form an important part of any Agile lifecycle, some claim that products developed with Agile are just not as safe and reliable as those developed with Waterfall. A little bit later on, I will just give you some example that Medtronic, which is the leading medical technology company, just implemented actually scaled Agile using Codebeamer. But another thing to consider is the FDA recognition. So FDA recognized Agile as a methodology fit for use in development of medical devices. This happened in 2013. since which date Agile is actually widely considered a suitable method to develop safety-critical medical products. In order to achieve such quality, reliability, and safety, advanced process control needs to be used, as well as software tools that have compliance and quality assurance. With these additions, Agile is actually increasingly used in safety-critical product development, and that could expand as developers find ways to implement mature processes in an Agile environment. So just now giving you a little bit of introduction of Agile. So before we move on to discussing the pros and the cons of Agile, I would love to ask a question. So we are interested to know, what kind of software tool you are looking for. So just let me open the poll. So we really would love to know what kind of tool you are looking for. Are you looking for something to manage your requirements, testing, entire development lifecycle, ALM, your Agile project, or your multiply Agile projects such as SAFe? Thank you. I think this is all the answer what we got so far. It's very interesting. More than the half of the attendees actually looking for managing ALM. So let's just close the pool and then we move forward with the next slide. So now I would love to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of Agile. So as you could see on the screen, I quickly highlighted you for the advantages and disadvantages. So the benefits of Agile mostly results from the framework's flexible nature. And by being able to react to any and all changes early and often, and updating requirements after each iteration, Agile teams can deliver a product that better suits the needs of the end users. This results in enhanced customer satisfaction. And due to the self-governing teams, developers working in an Agile environment tend to be happier with the jobs. Perhaps even more important, successful Agile projects reduce the product's time to market, and with it the cost of the development. Of course, Agile also has disadvantages. So the disadvantages of Agile are clear. Since requirements evolve all the time, it is harder to negotiate fixed time and fixed price projects. Requirements classified in the last minute might be ambiguous, which could lead to major issues. It is also true that developing Agile is pretty taxing for developers, since they have to complete features 100% in each iteration. While they are happy to work in self-governing teams, this means a lot of work for them. But just how successful Agile projects, it's always a question. So let me show you the latest reports of the Standish Group, which is an international IT research firm. So the Standish Group published its chaos report, and they publish this report every year. And the study analyzes 50,000 software development projects around the world to assess the rate of successful outcomes. The report also sheds light on the factors that could contribute to this project success. So according to this latest chaos report in 2015, on the basis of all projects, regardless of the size, Agile projects are far more likely to be successful than Waterfall projects. The difference is minimal when running a small project. It is only 32%. But if you look at the huge projects, then the Agile projects are 600% more likely to be successful, which is quite a number. So it's often a question then, does it mean that Agile methods are universal, kind of like a silver bullet solution to success? Or is Agile simply better than Waterfall? Well, the general answer is very simple, no. Any methodology by itself is not a recipe for success. In general, we can say that less critical projects with more local scope and more focus on the end user are better suited for agile. And scaled agile also shows promising results. Several global enterprises that are operating in high regulated safety critical industries are also increasingly transitioning their complex projects to scale agile. And as I mentioned previously, the world's leading medical technology company, Medtronic, is a prime example of this. So Medtronic's neuromodulation department chose to implement Scaled Agile using Codebeamer ALM. So we have also a case study of the story on our website. It is free, so I think it's worth to check it out. Now, I would love to move to the agile-waterfall hybrid and say a few words about it. So as development teams have started experimenting with agile in an unlikely environment, such as the development of complex multi-tier software projects, some of them realized that a pure agile or a pure waterfall approach isn't or wasn't the best option for them. Instead, they came up with ways to combine the benefits of both worlds. This has resulted in the creation of a custom hybrid methodology. It is important to note that hybrid is not a process framework set in stone. There are a million variations of it in use. And I think it is also a good idea to mention that some waterfall and agile enthusiasts claim that hybrid is just quite simple a mess. These professionals like to stick to either methodology and say that the very nature of this method does not allow the combination of the two. Nevertheless, there are companies in all sorts of industries worldwide that successfully employ some sort of a hybrid framework. They borrow ideas from other frameworks, such as SAFe, which prescribes the use of 3 levels of development. This approach fits a hybrid method as it allows for the separate yet integrated management of parallel development streams. So the hybrid methodology fits certain safety-critical, highly regulated development environments where compliance with standard is critical for both hardware and software, but reacting to changes might also be important. So let's just give you some examples. For instance, certain medical devices in everyday use by patients, for example, heart rate monitors that are designed for home use. These need to be user-friendly, but may also need to be transmit data to a central healthcare computing infrastructure. So the software in such devices might need to be updated continuously, or at least regularly through the life cycle of the product. The software in this case also needs to be highly integrated with the hardware components. So in this context, waterfall might be used to engineer and manufacture hardware, while agile may have the development of the software. So the two components are developed parallel and are integrated in the final products. So it is a brilliant example how to use or work with a hybrid methodology. So hybrid allows for the combination of the two, supporting the parallel management of waterfall-based hardware and agile-based software development life cycles. Since hybrid is such a huge topic with so many variables, it is outside of the scope of today's webinar to discuss hybrid in the detail. But I would love to call your attention to our premium content ebook that is published on our website. So if you just look for free guides, you will find it. And it is available on our website and going to tell you more about the hybrid itself. So I hope I could give you some great insight into the agile and hybrid, and I would love to switch back to Christoph.
Absolutely, thank you, Eva. Right, so as Eva said, this ebook is available for free on our website, so you can just download it. And it's actually super interesting, so it's worth a shot. Okay, so we'd like to thank you for your attention. And before we move on to the Q&A session, there are a few more questions I'd like to ask you. The first one is quite simply, how do you feel about this webinar? Do you think it was valuable? Would you share it with your team? Okay, thank you. That's flattering. We're in the top range here. Thank you so much. And then the last question that we're going to ask you today is whether or not you would like to receive further information about Codebeamer ALM. If you're interested in, for example, in how Medtronic was able to implement scaled agile using Codebeamer, then it's a good idea to say yes here. Also, if you'd like to find out how your own processes could be streamlined using this advanced application lifecycle management solution, just say yes and we're going to get in touch with you. All right, thanks a lot for your answers. Now we release over to the Q&A session. Please, if you have any questions, just feel free to type them in the questions box and we will do our best to answer those questions. I think the only question so far, whether the slides will be available after the presentation, we have answered that. Yes, the recording will be available on the website, and you will also receive a link to it in our next newsletter tomorrow. Okay, Joseph is asking whether the development of hardware is also included. I'm assuming you mean in Codebeamer. Well, Codebeamer is an application lifecycle management tool, so it's primarily for software, but it also has a wide range of integrations. For instance, with SAP, which is Enterprise Resource Planning solution. So basically, with integrations, you can manage your entire product development from Codebeamer. Even the hardware part, the information is going to be flowing into Codebeamer, and you will have a chance to oversee all that. You'll be able to use Codebeamer's advanced features to pull reports and to set up your own dashboards and basically just manage the entire process of development. I'm hoping this answers your question. Okay, well, it seems like we don't have any other questions. So once again, we would like to thank you for your attention today. And please feel free to sign up for next week's webinar as well. Okay, well, thank you so much for attending. Have a good day.